What if I told you that a 15-year-old girl walked less than 5 minutes toward her home and somehow disappeared without leaving a single footprint? On a freezing night in 1984, Jennifer Maynard stepped off the Route 9 bus. Streetlights flickered behind her, wind pushing at her backpack. She was tired, annoyed. Texting didn't exist yet. She just wanted her warm house. But halfway down the quiet street, something happened. By morning, her parents realized she never came home. Police searched ditches, woods, yards, nothing. Her scent stopped at the end of the road, as if she vanished mid-step. And what no one knew that night was that a young boy down the street had seen everything. At first, Jennifer's disappearance felt solvable. Police interviewed bus passengers, neighbors, even joggers who passed the street that night. But every answer led nowhere. Detectives noticed something odd. People remembered seeing Jennifer, but no one remembered seeing who she walked near. Her father retraced the route with a flashlight every night, calling her name softly like she might still answer. Her mother kept the porch light on until sunrise, hoping she'd suddenly appear on the driveway. But behind the scenes, investigators grew frustrated. Timelines didn't match. One neighbor changed his story twice. And there were rumors, whispers about a strange car seen idling near the bus stop. Then, slowly, the search teams left. News vans disappeared. Tips dried up. And without any new evidence, the case slipped into the cold files. Andrew Keller was the kind of kid who never raised his voice, so when he heard a sharp cry outside his window, he froze in place. He peeked through the blinds. There was Jennifer, her breath visible in the cold air, pulling away from a man in a heavy dark jacket. The man whispered something harsh, shoved her toward a dark two-door car, and forced her inside. Andrew stumbled back from the window, terrified. He tried to tell his parents, but his voice cracked and he panicked. So he sat at his desk and wrote everything: the man's height, the car's dented door, even a partial license plate he wasn't sure he read correctly. He sealed the note, addressed it to the police, and dropped it into the mailbox the next morning. He went to school believing he'd just helped solve a kidnapping. He had no idea his letter had already disappeared. The letter entered the local sorting facility at sunrise. It should have passed through 3 scanners and been placed into the police department bundle. But during a rushed shift change, a stack of envelopes slid off a cart. One got wedged behind a metal rack. No one bent down to check. No one even noticed. Meanwhile, detectives received 0 witness reports. They chased every rumor: a possible runaway, a strange van near the woods, a classmate who claimed Jennifer seemed sad days earlier. All of it false leads, all of it noise. And Andrew, waiting for police to knock on his door, slowly convinced himself he misread everything that night. He stopped talking about it. And Jennifer's case froze solid for the next 30 years. In 2015, retired postal worker Luis Moreno opened his old storage unit for the first time in years. He expected dust and spiders, nothing more. He sorted through boxes until he found one labeled Sorting B, December 1984. Inside was a single yellowed envelope, edges curled, ink fading. He opened it out of curiosity, then sank onto a chair. a child describing a kidnapping, a dark sedan, a partial license plate. Luis remembered the Jennifer case instantly. Everyone did. He stared at the letter, realizing it had never been processed. He didn't wait until morning. He drove straight to the police station and handed it to the night detective. Within minutes, alarms went out. The Jennifer Maynard case was officially reopened. Detectives pored over boxes of old files that hadn't been touched in decades. Dust, fading photos, forgotten notes, but Andrew's letter rearranged everything. Now they had a car model, a time window, and a possible suspect silhouette. They checked 1984 DMV records. 17 dark two-door sedans matched the description. 13 owners were easily cleared, but one man stood out: Thomas Rayner. Old reports placed him walking on the same street around the time Jennifer vanished. He'd been questioned briefly back then, but without witnesses, detectives had let him go. Now, with the letter in hand, they finally had reason to dig deeper. And the more they researched Thomas, the darker his history became. Neighbors remembered Thomas Rayner vividly, a brooding man who watched kids walk home a little too closely. He'd been arrested for minor assaults, accused of following women after dark, and once threatened a coworker who asked too many questions. Detectives discovered something troubling. Thomas reported selling a dark, two-door sedan just 3 months after Jennifer disappeared. No record of who he sold it to. No bill of sale. When detectives revisited old witness notes, they found a scribble. Rayner seen washing car late night. Unusual. Combined with the letter, this was no coincidence. Thomas had moved to Indiana years later. Tracking him down would be difficult, but investigators were determined. If he took Jennifer, he had kept that secret for 30 long years. Forensics re-examined every scrap from 1984. Old carpet fibers, paint chips, and a damaged bus stop security tape. Modern enhancement brought new clarity. Jennifer walked alone under the flickering light, then a shadow crossed behind her, moving fast. Not a full ID, but it confirmed Andrew wasn't imagining anything. Detectives traveled to Indiana and found Thomas living in a run-down farmhouse surrounded by rusted tools and old car parts. He answered the door with a strange, almost rehearsed calm. But when investigators mentioned his old dark sedan from 1984, Thomas stiffened. His eyes drifted to the barn behind him, and detectives noticed it immediately. Thomas Rayner was arrested soon after, and the media storm hit instantly. They called it the Lost Letter Case. In court, Andrew, now a grown man, read the exact letter he wrote as a terrified boy. The courtroom sat frozen. Even the judge leaned forward. Forensic experts testified about the enhanced tape. Neighbors recalled Thomas's frightening temper. Lewis described discovering the lost letter after 30 years of dust. But crucial evidence had decayed, and legal gaps formed under the weight of time. The jury found Thomas guilty of kidnapping and unlawful restraint, charges they could confidently support, but not murder. It wasn't the justice everyone hoped for, but it was the truth finally acknowledged. Jennifer's body was never found, but her family finally received the answers they had begged for since 1984. At her memorial, her mother read Andrew's letter aloud, the same letter that had been lost behind a shelf for 3 decades. People cried not just for Jennifer, but for the idea that one small mistake could change everything. Andrew apologized to the family, but they embraced him, telling him his letter had saved them from endless uncertainty. Now, each December, a single lantern hangs at the Route 9 bus stop. It glows softly through the cold night in memory of Jennifer, and as a reminder that sometimes the truth waits in the dark until someone finally finds it.